Let the record show that all members of the city council are present, as well as members of the city staff and members of the public. Let's see. I'm not aware of any public comment for tonight. Anybody else aware of any? I will not have anything for the mayor's report, city administration report.
Just going back to that, we had somebody come in today, and he wanted to talk to me, and I wasn't there at the time, but he said he was going to come into city council. I'm not sure what it was about or who, so
Okay.
There could be somebody here for that. I do have some stuff on my report, though. A few
Okay.
things.
All right. After that, we'll do the recognition of Mayor Searle and Councilmember Ellis. They're both planning on being here, as far as we know.
Yeah, we confirmed both of those. We have a number of things to give to them. There's also going to be Chief Brinkman has something he wanted to present to the mayor, as did the senior citizens. So it'll be quite the gift fest tonight for Mayor Searle. So
Great. Number 4, report and notice of certification on the AFCU petition for annexation. Is this from Michelle or is this from Mike, or who's this?
It's kind of a tandem effort. It's technically by state code Michelle's responsibility to certify the petition, as we've outlined in our previous review of the annexation petition. This is just something we're required to do by state code, to report to the council that it has been certified, that everything is complete, to move forward with the actual recognition of advertisement in the paper, which you see in that lower portion. That will be mailed out to the sponsor, the county. That's what we're required to do by state code. And then we had to put a bunch of noticing in the newspaper once every week, on the website once every week at minimum, or actually on the website for the full 30 days, right, Michelle? I think that's what it is. And then there's a protest period wherein a sponsored or affected entity within the annexation area can basically file a protest with the county recorder's office. So there's a lot of laborious logistics and box checking here, but basically us reporting it to you lets us then move forward with the noticing, long and short. So
Okay, thank you. And that's just a consent item. Or actually, it's not a consent item. It's just a report from you letting us know where that's at. Okay. First consent item, consideration to approve the meeting minutes from the March 1st, 2022 work session and council meeting. Is there any changes or corrections to those minutes? All right, very good. Second one is consideration to ratify the Planning Commission election results for Kathy Eskelson as chair and Robert Wingfield as vice chair of the Planning Commission. Any questions about that, or anything you want to ask Mr. Eggett or Michelle about? Okay. Number 3, discussion and consideration of completing a community survey. This was put on the consent items at the request of Councilor Hanson and Councilor Merrill, I believe.
It's Arnold.
Councilor Arnold? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. All right. And let's see, who wants to talk about that?
I don't know if Annie wants to start that discussion. I mean, we obviously have some ideas and input on it, but I think the biggest thing is that we need some direction on what you want, where you want us to go. And I think, you know, in the past, well, we've had kind of mixed bag on those surveys. One, you're questioning who you get in your survey, depending on the means you use. Previously, we used all mail outs and multiple questions, and sometimes we'd get those back and go over them, and we wondered if how worthwhile they were because we didn't get everything we needed. And then we also questioned our audience and who responded back to them. We have different options now since we've done the last one, because it's been a while, I think 2014 or something, since we have done one. So we have internet things that are available to us now that weren't before. But again, I guess it just depends on what you guys want or what you're looking for, and we'll go from there if we get some direction on it.
So most of this discussion should probably be held in the main meeting.
Yeah, I just
That's
didn't
what I would
know how
think.
to really start the process. So
Okay.
That
So
was-
and if there's anything procedural, let's talk about it here. Like, as far as what we're doing, are we making any decisions tonight? Are we doing a consent on something, or are we
you
just...
need us to like officially say work on it
I think if we
and
just
bring
had,
us something.
It has a budgetary impact potentially, so
Okay.
it would need to
like an action item.
So more to look, and then you'll come back to us if there's a
Or at
cost.
least
We
you
need to
can
know
say, hey, we want to look at
what
it.
the cost
We're at a
is
good
before
point
we
to talk
approve
about
it.
it now with the
Right.
budget
So
coming
we'd
up
have
to
to
do it.
estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
when
and
you're
that's
pres-
great. So
Okay.
we just need to know.
We just wanted direction on it. What?
Okay.
Because, and this is the thing that I've cautioned you guys with before. Sometimes one council member wants it, but until two others vote with you, I don't have any direction. So unless I get some sort of a indication that this is a majority decision, there's nothing for me to do at this point. So,
So it would be consent to have the city staff start working on a survey.
Maybe
yeah.
like present it to us,
see a
some
cost
ideas
first.
or
Yeah, I,
something,
I
or
think we
cost?
just want some direction, and then we would come back with something a little, because we haven't discussed it, to be honest with you. I mean, other than informally. So to even say tonight that we know what to do or we don't, because we don't know what the council wants or what you're seeking. So once we have that stuff, then we can work on things. So
Does anybody remember what the last one cost us?
They did it in-house.
Well, it cost a bunch because
Well,
we
for the
mailed
mailings,
everybody
yeah.
out.
Yeah, it would
I'd
cost a
have to
bunch.
look.
Yeah.
I want to say it was almost like, I think it was like 10 grand because
For all the
we paid
printing
for
and mailing.
postage out, plus then we paid prepaid postage back in,
Oh,
plus
right.
then all of the actual mailers, plus then we had how it was done before is all in paper. So Chris Stone had to spend a whole bunch of time going through every survey and like recording all the data. So it was like very labor intensive and fairly costly for what we got.
Okay. So we'll discuss that in
We'll discuss
Okay.
it.
in the main meeting. I think would be the most appropriate for that. All right. Number 4, discussion regarding. I'm not sure if this is consent item, but discussion regarding 2022 water restrictions.
well, again, it's more informative than anything. I'll have Sean lead this discussion, but we did receive a letter from Weber Basin, and they'd kind of give us some indicators of what we're looking at this summer. And so we kind of wanted to inform you. Sean will fill you in on those things, but we've got to start making plans on that because it's going to affect all of us drastically. So I don't know how much you want to know now, or if you want to wait till the meeting.
I'm just wondering. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Annie put it in the letter out on Facebook.
Yeah, I saw a letter on there. I don't know who did it. It wasn't Annie, but somebody else had posted one somewhere. That's the letter we're referring to. And Sean's been in meetings with them, so he can give you a little bit more details on that too. Again, I would caution you that is not their final decision, but as it stands right now, that's probably their final decision. So unless things change drastically, if you want a green lawn this summer, you'll be painting it. And I have a reference for that if you want to buy some of that stuff.
So
Green paint.
what would we be consenting to in that as far as being a consent item?
I don't know that we necessarily need a consent on anything other than because we still haven't made up final decisions.
We don't have a final decision. We kind of need some direction on that as well because it affects our recreation programs. It affects how we're going to operate during the summer as far as splash pads. And then also, what are we going to follow the guideline when the final recommendation comes out, or are we going to look for something different? Because they're pretty much going to make it mandatory this year. It's dire, actually. They're trying right now to buy $6 million of water from Strawberry Reservoir to try and supplement us on this side of the mountain. So it's critical. So I just want to cover a few points, get some feedback on what you kind of want us to start thinking about, and a little bit of direction as we go into the budget year. It has huge budget impacts as well because if we don't sell water, we don't have money for the water fund. So we just want to be ahead of it instead of behind it. I felt like last year we didn't get to you quick enough and we was kind of always behind the whole curve, and I don't want to be there this year. So I just wanted everybody to be aware of where we're at and where we're kind of headed.
See, one of our parks got beat up really bad last year, and we're really concerned about that one. And it's getting used quite heavily by the military academy down there, and there may need to be restrictions even on that, or we could lose a park. And then, what do we do with fireworks? That's an issue, because if I have a dry field up there, that's a concern. So these are all things we need to know. The water, the splash pad, I know Sean needs that because they start some early preparation. So those are all the kind of things we want to talk about to get some guidance from you guys. I mean, we've got some things in the back of our head and what we would suggest and recommend, but we want to make sure you're okay with it because, some of this you're going to get the calls if we don't open up the splash pad. So
Ms. Mayor?
Yeah.
Should we put all this off until after we do the survey to find out what we're supposed to do? I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Of the
Yeah, the community survey. Yeah.
silliness of the
Yeah.
survey.
Yeah.
You scared me, Bart. I thought you were serious for a second.
I'll just look for a little guidance from you for as far as what we're
All
going
right.
to get consensus on and stuff. And okay, very good. Keep moving. Action item number 1: consideration of resolution 2022-10 awarding a bid to post asphalt for the 950 West improvement. Mr. Douglas.
So that's just a asphalt rehab. We'll be milling the edges, overlaying the center, replacing curb and gutter, sidewalk, but pretty just straightforward like we do typically throughout the year. And if you have any questions, we can answer them in the meeting or here or whatever.
Okay. And if there's no questions on that one, we'll move on to number 2. This is resolution 2022-11. This is awarding a bid to Skyview Excavation for the 4600 South Roadway improvement. This is the $1 million road that we're looking at building to connect to the bridge, right?
This is the road to connect to the Bach Homes property at the back. It will let us stay in front of them, so we'll determine where the road goes, and that was our goal, and I hope that's still your goal because that's the way I was directed to go. We will start at the bridge here. This area here will be overlaid. As we go back, the road's narrow. We're going to widen it back out so it's full width, and then we'll go full width back to the end of the property. We will only have sidewalk on the west side because we're trying to stay as close to the railroad tracks as we can. And then we'll kind of end about 10 feet short of our property, and then when they connect, they'll have to come and connect to us. So, but we should be about a year in front of them, hopefully, if this all goes smooth this summer. And then when they come in, they'll have to meet up with where we're at and not cut our property in half. So
Are they, so we're a year ahead of them, right?
I hope so.
So if we go in and build the $1 million road, is it gonna be like that bridge in West Virginia that, we build the bridge and nobody ever connects to it? I mean,
So we've thought about that a little bit. The other portion of this road though is if you're ever going to do the park there, we would use this road to access that and put the parking lot off of this road. So technically it would never be a road to nowhere. It would just be the entrance into that park area down there if we keep that idea moving forward. So
into the dry park.
Can we have parks?
There's a stream running through that.
Is that?
Yeah.
We need to capture that, don't we?
Yeah.
There's a lot of water. You'd be surprised. Those bikers have gone down there and put bridges and stuff through it. So when they call it a wetland, it's really a wetland. A lot of water.
Well, when you think of all the little waterfalls that are coming off the hillside, I didn't know about until the hillside gave way. It's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
365, they're
Oh yeah.
the coldest winters, the water's flowing there.
All right. If there's no other questions on that, we'll move to comments. Any comments from the city council for this meeting? City staff
I got a couple little ones, but we'll save those for the meeting.
for the main meeting?
They're just really
Okay.
quick. So
And then I don't have any comments for this meeting. Okay. We will now move to our RDA meeting work session. All right, let's see. Okay. So, as far as presentations and reports, we have a discussion regarding the West Bench RDA participation agreement with Riverdale Commercial Holdings. Mr. Brooks?
this has been one we beat to death. This has been a lot of work, and we've just kind of reached a point where, again, we need direction from the RDA board. When we do these RDA projects, they're generally anticipated that money will be spread throughout the whole project. And, that one's set up there for a while, but it's really close to going, at least partially. In fact, there's been more movement to the whole thing in the last even 2 weeks than there's ever been in my 20 years since we set this up, including the motel and stuff. The part that we're talking about is the Brent Ellis side, and it's the Maverick side and things like that. We've kind of reached an impasse, I guess, with some of the staff and Mr. Heap. And he's discouraged because he thinks we're dragging our feet on this. And we aren't necessarily dragging our feet. We haven't gotten all the information that we feel we need to make sound decisions. And plus, there's just a fundamental disagreement on how much money goes where. And so that's kind of where we wanted to bring this in to kind of get a feel from the board so that we have some more direction. I mean, ultimately, it falls back on your shoulders. You know, one property owner could come in and request the whole thing, and if you guys chose to do that, you can do that. We look at it a little bit differently because we're trying to follow the plan and at least our version or what we think it reads, and that's kind of what we'll present. He's got a presentation, I know, and a PowerPoint and different things that he's going to present, and then I'll probably address some of the concerns that we have as staff and just get some direction from the RDA board as to how you want to proceed. Our concern is that if we use all the money on his property, we will have nothing for anything else up there. And that's been a big concern from the get-go for me and a couple of the staff members as well. So, but, you know, maybe he can sell it to you. I don't know. That's kind of up to him, but that's just where we're at. I think he wants to know where he's at. He's invested a fair amount of money on some things already with some early explorations and land purchases. He's bought all that where Brent is and Knutsen's piece. So he's got a decent-sized portion of it, but there's still more. And what do we do with it? How do we divide that money up is kind of what it boils down to. And where do you guys want to put it or your emphasis? So that's the gist of the whole thing.
Questions from the board?
Will we be able to have a closed session to discuss some of the details that might not want to be public on the?
On the land,
The
and if you'll
land.
notice, I set a closed session on the agenda, and I did that for that reason, because there's a number of pieces. You got to remember, we have two up there, and even some of the other ones, there's been movement on those that I want to discuss with you, because I think it becomes even more relevant than it's ever been. And they all are involving land purchases. And so in that regards, we can go into a closed session because we want to protect. We've got a lot of numbers flowing through our heads right now, and we don't want that to suddenly escalate. And so we can go into that. I put it on there in case you wanted it. I would like to do that because I think there's stuff there that I need to tell you about. And that's kind of what I've expressed to Ted all along is I don't feel that I'm doing my job if I don't tell you everything I know, because I don't think you can make a good decision unless you know that. So that's where we're at. But I would like to go into that closed session because we have some things we probably should talk about at this stage. So.
Just a couple of things that I feel like is important for you to know as the board. It's your responsibility to make sure that the RDA funds are spent appropriately. It's tax increment that the school district and the taxing entities have agreed to let us use to develop the property. If I say anything wrong, stop me. But they've entrusted us with that authority to make sure that we use it the best way that's going to develop the property the best. We do have some pieces of property up there, and I think it's up to us to make sure that we get the best price possible and that we do what's best for our residents. So these are all things, as Ted starts to talk, that you're going to have to be taking in and understanding.
Yeah.
These are our responsibilities. So,
So Ted's topic is a presentation, not an action item. So we're just
No, it's just for discussion. I told him that we're not, he kind of wanted to go there, but I don't think we're there because we don't have final numbers on one part of this that's huge. And so I don't think we could make a decision on it. Not soundly, we couldn't, that's for sure. So
But it's fair to kind of classify what he's up to is.
Yeah, I think
he
so.
Can't get past you guys with trying to get the money, so he's going to appeal to us.
right.
Okay.
and one thing that's important to understand is this area has to be triggered, or something has to happen in the next 2 years.
By the
or
end
we
of
kinda lose it.
2025.
And so that's the other thing we're weighing here.
But doesn't Maverick trigger it now?
We choose to trigger it, but we can, and that's the advantage with the Maverick. And see, it goes on the other side of the freeway, or Riverdale Road, I mean. So Larry H. Miller, the Harley, and credit to Larry, when he designed this, I think he threw those in with that in mind in case we ended up in this exact scenario. We have some tax increment that could come in right now. And so triggering it is an option. Now, it's not the maximum amount or what we would like to have, but if we had to do it, we could. But ideally, we want that filled in a whole lot more than it is right
Want
now.
it to all move at the same
Right,
time.
right.
And what happens in 2 years? We lose all the money.
By the end of 2025, it ceases to exist. So we wouldn't even have those options. And with the current changes in the legislature and stuff, I've asked Adam Long to be here tonight. He's our RDA attorney and probably one of the experts in the state. He can address some of those issues. He didn't seem to be as concerned about that when we hit him up about that the other day as Mike and I are. But as we read that, we kind of see the death of RDAs. And so if that died, we won't get this chance again.
You're talking about House Bill 151.
151, yeah. And so, and even that one, when this was originally proposed, Larry went in for $13 million initially, and they didn't pass that. It got knocked back down to 9. So even the taxing entities aren't that warm and fuzzy, and to go back to them now to ask for an extension, probably not going to happen. That's the only way we could do it, but we don't want to take that chance if we can get it going. So,
Any questions about that?
I put a bunch of stuff in there. I don't know how much of you had a chance to read that. I put the narrative that Larry drafted up and then the original plan. Now, I would tell you that original plan was the one that was written in 2005, and it does refer to the 13 million. It also refers to a housing component. That stuff got cut out of there. There was some administrative costs too. That was cut out. So that's not exactly the way the final one is, but it's pretty close. The stuff we're going to talk about tonight is covered in there for the most part. So
But I appreciated getting that.
there was a lot of stuff, and I knew you probably wouldn't get through it all, but when you're bored, sometimes you want to read that kind of stuff. Mike gives you that stuff all the time. I figured I'd do it for once. So no, I think it was important. You need to see that because that's your guidance. That's kind of like your Bible, and that tells you what you're supposed to do with this. So that's why I wanted that in there.
Last page.
Any other questions on that?
Okay. Any other comments for the RDA work session? Okay. If not, then I guess we'll just wait till 6 o'clock to start our meeting.